Welcome to UVTV, motherfucker. I'm gonna kick spiritual ass and introduce my people. On God. Neon nigga fulfill me, yeah. And today I'm gonna be talking about understanding your ecosystem and natural natures, your purest, organic, and productive state of being. So just in general, right, I'm really just gonna be talking about your natural state of being and how to understand your natural state of being, aka the creative space or the observer space, and how you can naturally produce it and based upon the ecosystem that you in, aka right? An ecosystem is just a whole bunch of different uh, organisms living in a community and how they be at play when it comes to the environment that they in, just in general, right? So you already do this on a lighter scale when it comes to your mentalities, and an even more lighter scale when it comes to the spirit or the space that you in, just in general. So you make these different mentalities, these thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and you give life to these things based upon the essence and the purest organic you know what I'm saying? Like the essence, so the things that's essential, and the substance, the subconscious standing. So you already doing this subconsciously and spiritually speaking, right? And everything is just a mechanism and just a transition of it playing out into the blood flow and the different organs like the heart and the lungs and stuff like that. You basically building your own organs to make it so things be real running oil running machine and stuff like that. So everything has some good engineering behind it, like it has some good quality behind it. So yeah, exercising and stuff like that, like physical exercising helps, but you also have to be doing that mental exercises and stuff like that. So flexing your mental muscles and starting to gain more knowledge or wisdom and awareness about what you're paying attention to and the things you start to attract based upon what you're paying attention to, because attention is like you making an esoteric tent safety comfort zone out of it, and then you start to attract certain things based upon what you then made out of that tent. And that tent could be on faulty grounding, or it's a tent that actually has some type of fortitude and you know what I'm saying? It's actually gonna be like a fortress and stuff like that. It's actually gonna be like a camp. It's actually gonna be fortified. It's actually gonna be like a fort or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? All the way down to like what the Native Americans used to be doing when it comes to their communities and stuff like that. But I'm not even gonna go too deep on that because hey, I'm just some African light skinned motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But we is in America right now, and that's the spirit, that's the atmosphere that we in, which is why I always be talking about that like spirituality when it comes to that, just in general, in my own understanding of it, and you know what I'm saying? Doing it from the holy perspective and making it a holy mentality, and then making it a holy. And that's me taking the ascension of something and I start to descend it. I'm taking it into some the positive, most expansive spaces and natures and stuff like that, and making it condense into the physicality when it comes to the body and the flesh, and making it uh making different examples of the external world of how this actually plays out, and it's not no thing that's pseudo, and it's not no thing based upon you know what I'm saying, getting overly lost into the methodology of it all, or epistemology or some shit like that, or the scientific method, or getting lost into science, aka just technology. Science just means technology. But like yeah, so for me, so from not getting lost into the external tools and technology of the world and stuff like that, you start to understand your internal natures, and then you doing things from the inside out, not doing things from the outside in. So it's never no such thing of you gonna try to take something that's outside that you see in the world, in the external realm, in the physical realm and stuff like that, and you think you're gonna feel fulfilled inside by trying to take something outside yourself. No, that make no goddamn sense. No, get a better mentality. Go find God, aka all possibilities. Go find something beyond just yourself that you can worry about, so you don't get lost into a Lucifer, get lost into a lust, get lost into a way of being love, a validation issue, getting lost into delight, or in a or an illusion or an illusion and stuff like that, and then you end up having some type of narcissistic ego because it's always gonna be some thing that's self-serving without understanding you have to do things that make you of service. So doing something beyond just yourself. So being like selfless or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to understand the polarity and always having that equilibrium and stuff like that. That fine balance of, oh, I'm gonna do this because I want to do it, but I also want to do it for something beyond just myself. People, places, and things, and going the distance when it comes to that. And then you start to understand your own capabilities and your own natural natures. And once you start to get it from that perspective, that's just the simplest mechanism or the simplest way of how you can understand it. So it's the state of being pure and organic and finding out what is not true about yourself. And then now I'm gonna get into the deep in depth of basically like the title of this video and stuff like that. But the most simplest way of how to put it is just your naturalist purest, organic, productive state of being, and finding out what is not true about yourself. And once you find out your esoteric truth and testimony of what's not true about yourself, and you don't get caught into a lie or an illusion of what you think you are, you start to find out what you actually are for the most part. You know what I'm saying? What you actually genuinely, sincerely resonate with and stuff like that. So just in general, right? Nature goes beyond just the physical, because I know motherfuckers look up nature and they be all like, oh, you talking about the external world at large in the universe and stuff like that. No, the nature is the external environment when it comes to the space that you in. So that's some type of spirituality, the actuality of the different spaces that everyone is in. And that's like a multitude of different spaces, a multitude of different people, places, and things. So that's like feminine meaning like multiple, and then masculine meaning like singular. The singular perspective, aka your individual spirit, is your soul, your individual space and creations and observations and stuff like that. So the same way how you observe your thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and it can come out one ear and out the other when you meditate and stuff like that, you can choose which thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and which things you're willing to act upon based upon what you're paying attention to, and you're gonna start to attract that energy of whatever you paying attention to. So you could do it from the highest scale. You could look at it as something that's like positive or uplifting or spontaneous, or the lowest scale, something that's condensed or in a container, or depressing, or something out of left field, or something that's just or balanced or righteous and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Or something that makes you feel like you moving forward in life, or something that makes you feel aggressive and you feel like you have to go look back at something. You focus on the past and stuff like that. And from an overall perspective, whole 360, right? You understand the whole sphere of how your spirit be moving. So the more you start to understand your own feelings, you start to understand your own emotions. And emotions are just specific feelings, and it's things that are moving you. You know what I'm saying? Emotions is things that are essentially moving you, just in general. So you start to understand the specific feeling to why you feel that way, and you can't get to that process without understanding the thought and idea of something first. So it's an idea. You're going to spark an idea, and then you're going to start thinking about it, and then you're going to start having feelings and emotions about what you was just thinking about, and it's going to turn into a specific feeling, aka an emotion, and you start to get moved and motivated based upon the whole mechanism and process and stuff like that. So you took something that wasn't a shaping form, and you start making it into a shaping form, and you start putting it in a container instead of it just being an idea that you just had in your mind and you just thinking about, but it's just in the atmosphere, in the air. No, you're turning it into a process of, let me try to internalize it. Let me actually try to receive something from it, just in general. And that turns into that spring, summer, fall, winter process, or the fire, water, air, earth process. Fire meaning expression and passion, and being hot and spicy and enticing and passionate and stuff like that. And water meaning you starting to condense into a feeling and emotion, right? Because like fire deals more with like seeing and feeling when it comes to the vision, and then you start to internalize that vision that you in to have a specific emotion and feeling about it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because both of those are, you know what I'm saying? Like fire and water, they both deal with feelings. It's just fire, they don't care about a specific feeling about it. They don't care about a specific emotion. But once you start to focus on it enough, that's when it starts to get drenched into the water, and you start to soak in into that vision, soak in into what you're seeing, and then it's going to turn to an emotion that going to make you more motivated, and it's going to turn to that air pocket. You start thinking and analyzing and talking about it and communicating about it, and trying to rationalize it, and then it's going to start to turn to earth. So that's like materializing it and grounding it, and you know what I'm saying? Making it fortified, making it structured, making it a part of the physical in some way, shape, or form, right? And even if it's not something in the physical, right, it's just going to be you grounding something. So you going hard for something. You're going to try to make that mentality hard. You're going to try to, you know what I'm saying, make it hard as a rock. You're going to make it stable. You're going to make it fortified. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going really hard about this thing, and I want this thing to work. So I'm going to keep on trying to make it stable and secure to make sure that it's not movable, and I'm stuck in this mentality, in this mind state. And that's earth sign energy, just in general. So like I was saying before, nature goes beyond just the physical. It's what your spirit is doing, aka the space that you in, and then your individual space is your soul, right? So your own individualistic way of your bias and your subjective point of view, that's how you have your own mind and stuff like that. And then it condenses into a mind, or the time, or the attention span, and the awareness, and the thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. And then it turns into the flesh, aka the body. And then it starts to make your different organs, and you being an organism, and then you can make that a part of the external world. So it's like, yeah, the whole thing is like a process: spirit, mind, body, external world, spring, summer, fall, winter, and then birth, life, death, conclusion, or resolution, or evaporation type shit. But just in general, right? Once you start to understand your natural natures, aka what your spirit is doing based upon the essence and the substance, you start to understand the scenery. So that's like the minute you start to understand the environment and the scenery and the ecosystem, right? You start to understand the world of activity that you're in. You start understanding the world that you're in, and that's like a sphere. And then once you understand the sphere, the world, that's like an atmosphere. And then the atmosphere is just the sphere at most, the word at most. You start to understand your word at most at the lightest level, and then it starts to get condensed into the mind. Then it starts to get condensed again into your second body, which is like the flesh. And then you start to make it a part of the external world and use different tools of technology to make it actually be seen. And you're going to have that physical motivation to actually do that. So just in general, you're actively choosing the whole entire mechanism and process when it comes to everything that you got going on. You just have to understand the purest organic state of being of where it's coming from, aka the space that you're in and what you're observing, and what is the first intent behind why you have those desires and why you keep on thinking about it and why you keep paying attention to it and why you keep attracting certain energies. And then once you understand the why, it's gonna make you understand how you doing it. So you know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna end up doing a whole bunch of different things based upon what you feel is true to you and essential to you. And it's about the first intent behind the desire, and it's gonna show the how. It's gonna show your specific way of how you do it, and then everything else behind that when it comes to that process is like the what in general. So once you actually do it from the pure state of being, and you ain't trying to be some charlatan, or you just cosplaying, or you just not being yourself in some shape and form and stuff like that, you won't end up getting blood in your hands for no goddamn reason, and you able to get more grace because you actually acting off your first intent. So that's like some spontaneous type of energy. You're not you know what I'm saying, you being way more of yourself. You just being expressive without caring about the external outcomes that come with it. You just, oh yeah, I'm going off first instinct. Oh, I'm going off first impulse and stuff like that. But not in a way where it's all like, oh, you ain't you know what I'm saying? Like you start acting all degenerate. You just start saying the first thing in your mind. You ain't thinking about shit because of this and a third. No, you did thought about it, but you ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like you ain't gonna let certain external factors stop your actions. You're gonna keep on acting out on that thing until you feel like stopping. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna keep on going the distance until you end up dying, or you feel like stopping, or you're like, oh, okay, I did enough for this circumstance situation. Okay, I can chill now. You know what I'm saying? I done did enough today. I done fulfilled that pocket today and all that type of shit. So your natural natures is just your disposition. Your disposition is just like a distant position, right? So it's things that are distance from you in general, right? So cold, dead, distant, something that's more lower in quotations, lower or colder in temperature, in temperament and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm saying this from like a spiritual perspective, but I'm trying to make you understand it in the physical. So the same way how you have fall and winter and stuff like that, right? It's gonna be more cold. So think about a motherfucker who start acting cold towards you. You can't feel them no more. You feel like you can't resonate with them. Oh yeah, they done did you cold and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It feel like they not alive and stuff like that. They get distant from you. They start not being empathetic. They start acting like they don't give a fuck about you just in general. Okay, that's acting out that cold mentality. And then when it start to get cold and chilly and stuff like that, like a tundra, it's gonna be freezing. So you was able to encapsulate a certain mentality and freeze it and stay in that mind frame, and you didn't make it go anywhere else and stuff like that. You turned that water or that emotion and feeling that you felt inside you or was resonating with, and you was able to freeze it, and you was able to make it like an ice cube. You was able to make it solid, and no one was able to move you. And then whenever someone tried to touch it and stuff like that, they feel that coldness, and it start to hurt, and it start to make your fingers and stuff like that all brittle and stuff like that. Like you get what I'm saying? Like the minute you start getting outside, you start shivering and shit, and you start being like, you know what I'm saying? Like you feel like you can't move your hands, you can't feel your feet and stuff like that. The more degrees start to get lower and all that type of shit. So it's like that. It's like a temperament. So once you start to understand your disposition, you start understanding your position at a distance and stuff like that. So that's just the usual attitude or mood of a person's personality or character, which leads to an array of different characteristics and stuff like that. So you start to understand your character, and then you start acting out certain characteristics, and then it started to turn into different shades or different light spectrums of yourself. And then those different color spectrums and stuff like that are just different dispositions, different characteristics based upon the character that you want to display for yourself, based upon your natural natures and stuff like that. So your temperament is just the mentality of your temper. So you're fluctuating between high and low temperatures, aka being sensitive to the sensibility slash stimuli and stuff like that. So people who are more in a high temperament, that's like people who act very hot, spicy, enticing, enthusiastic, passionate, or on the negative end, that's like someone who get really reactionary or really irritable, or they have like a really bad temper and stuff like that. They get angry really easily. They act off impulse because of this and a third, but they're acting off like the first intent, and then they just like, you know what I'm saying? They start firing off, and then you can compare and contrast like the positive way of how to go about it, and then the negative way of how to go about it. Just in general, the negative way would be like impulse. The positive way would be more like spontaneous, expressive, super passionate type of energies. And then the lower octave, right, when it start to get into low temperatures, is like what I was saying before with the cold dead distance. So if it's more in a higher temperament, just in general, that's more like closeness. You know what I'm saying? So if it's more close, it's more personal. So that's like a motherfucker who like really in heat and stuff like that. to make it like make sense, like motherfuckers who like really horny and stuff like that, or like who be thirst trapping online, you gonna be like, oh yeah, this motherfucker in heat, aka they're being really expressive and they're not caring about the external factors, aka something that comes after the fact from a distance and stuff like that. So they're really in that feeling and emotion. They really in that vision. They really expressive. They really being spontaneous and stuff like that. They're really trying to be enticing and shit. You know what I'm saying? They're really trying to be alluring in that energy. You know what I'm saying? So just in general, right? Heat or what was I saying before? High temperament. Yeah, if it's like more in like a high temperament, right? That's more like closeness. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like you know how people be holding up when it be like cold as fuck, and then let's say they went camping outside or some shit like that, right? And then they start to cuddle together and huddle together to stay warm and stuff like that. It's like that. Like anything that's high temperament, it's gonna be heat and it's gonna be closeness. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna feel the heat that's in the kitchen, all that type shit, right? And you're gonna feel the connectiveness. You're gonna feel the relatability. And then a motherfucker who start acting more cold or low temperature, they act more distant. They act more separate. They act more non-connective. They act like they don't give a fuck about you and stuff like that. And it's far away from your grasp and stuff like that. You feel like y'all not on the same ground, common standing and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They feel like they out of reach and things of that nature. So high temperament will be closeness, and then low temperament will be like distance. So this leads to you understanding your essence. Your essence is just the essential everlasting scent and value. So your essence is like a spiritual scent in the spiritual realm and stuff like that. So it's like a perfume. It's like a perfume. I sound like gorilla. A perfume, or a cologne in the spirit realm and stuff like that. So it's gonna be your particular stench and stuff like that, your particular scent and stuff like that. So it's gonna be something that's gonna be really strong and stuff like that. We can smell that shit from a mile away type shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's based upon you understanding your essence. So pay attention to things that are more eternal or everlasting, not something that's low hanging fruit. You start paying attention to high hanging fruit. High hanging fruit will be more at the top of the tree, and it takes more effort to actually get to the top of the tree. So it's going to be something that's going to be more long distant and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like something you have to work for naturally over time, not taking a shortcut, not trying to get into a certain position because you paid someone off and you have to run a narrative or agenda and stuff like that, which is just low hanging fruit. You go for something that's based upon a monetary gain, something that's more, monetary gain, or something that's like short-lived, something that's like temporary, something that's gonna come and go. So like that's like us being in the physical, and our physical bodies are deteriorating over time all the way down to our mentalities. That's why motherfuckers be having dementia and stuff like that. But just based upon that fact, right, your spirit is more everlasting and eternal. Your mentality is what you give life to, right? You know what I'm saying? Because your spirit gave birth, and that's the origin point of where you started at and what you observing, what you creating for yourself, and then you created different shapes and forms, right? Thought forms and feelings and emotions. That's your mentality, and then it goes through a death. You're gonna actually temporarily live it out for a certain point in time, and then you're gonna end up evaporated. And the evaporation process is like the external world, the different tools of technology that's going to wear and tear even more. And we have to actually utilize those different tools and keep on making different cell phones and different things to make it so we can keep that going. So it's like a non-living object. Like we have to make the different tools and technology and stuff like that. We have to utilize those non-living objects, those non-living things. But the only reason we was able to make them is because we are entities and we are sentient and we are in existence and we able to make and craft those different things even though they're not alive and stuff like that, all the way down to robots. So it's never gonna be no thing like this is our robot and then AI, artificial intelligence, is gonna take over and shit like that when we the ones who actually sentient by actually doing this process and stuff like that, because no robot is gonna be able to outdo whatever a fucking animal is doing, whatever a plant is doing, whatever the atmosphere is doing, whatever a human is doing, because we had to create those things in the first place. So we can already cut that whole shit off and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with having it when it comes to, you know what I'm saying, having access to make things more easier, but that's the furthest it should be going and stuff like that. Y'all start getting too lost into some synthetic things without understanding your natural natures, and then you end up forgetting your natural qualities and your natural thought processes behind shit, and then it turns into you being a Google scholar instead of you actually just being in life itself and actually gaining some experience and gaining some creativity about yourself organically and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Without all that access and shit. So just in general, right? Humankind is learning to be one of a kind and compassionate by learning their natural natures, not by being overly nice and friendly all the time, because motherfuckers be all like, oh yeah, where's the humanity and stuff like that, or we're doing this for the sake of mankind and stuff like that. So motherfuckers want to be like all kind of compassionate and like nice and friendly. I mean it in that type way, when kind also means being one of a kind and being compassionate. Compassionate just means a compact passion. So you taking two different energies, you having sex within the mind, masculine and feminine, right? Thoughts and ideas, which is like men, and then feelings and emotions, which is like woman, and you start to turn it into you start to condense it and you start to deify it. So that's like you paying attention to something, aka men being a walking frequency, and then woman being a walking vibration and stuff like that. A man got a dick and he gonna drop his nuts and shit like that and get a wreck, and then a woman got a pussy or a coochie or a twat and she like to receive things and stuff like that. So you giving things out and you like to receive things. So the masculine and feminine, the thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and you start to compartmentalize that into some compact passion. So you taking those two different things, and that's the thing that's going to make you passionate based upon what you paying attention to, aka the frequency, aka the masculine energies, the man, and then the feminine energy, the vibration, the emotions and feelings, and and stuff like that, based upon what you're receiving. Men would be like perceiving, and then women would be like receiving. But you can't receive without understanding the perception of where you're coming from in the first place. So you have to see it a certain way, and then you have to start to condense it and put it into a container of receiving how you just perceived and stuff like that. Like how are you taking that in and all that. So it's based upon expression, and then soak it into that expression until you start having a certain emotion and feeling about it, for the most part. So yeah, we're here to be one of a kind. We have our own one of a kind particular character or observation point and point of view. That's why everyone has their own mind and stuff like that, because we all are part of God's children in a sense. Look at that as like all possibilities and stuff like that. But we all have our own subjective point of view when it comes to our personal relationship with God, aka all possibilities. So we're gonna make these things personally happen in our own particular way. So everyone's going to have their own preferences and bias and subjective point of view, and we want to make that part of the objective point of view. So we're going to make that the world. So we are the world. We make it what it is, all the way down to the different climate and stuff like that. Not no thing in the atmosphere where they trying to put chemtrails and all that other shit in the air when it comes to pollution or whatever, and then they try to control the weather and the climate and the hurricanes and the tornadoes and stuff like that. No, we make the climate. We make it what it is. We going to make it so, oh, is the climate going to be some sunny ass day, or is it going to be some thunderstorm, thundercloud, clouded ass, flunked out thought form that day when it comes to thunderstorms and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Man, that's really a whole different video. But just in general, right? It's understanding your creative and controlling force, right? And you being a part of the universe. So the universe is just all of our different subjective point of views, look at that like verses, like in a song and stuff like that, and we're starting to unify those different verses and stuff like that. So the same way how you have a song and they got verses and they got like a hook and they got a chorus and they got a post chorus and they got a bridge and stuff like that. Okay, we're unifying those different verses to make a song. We can make something that's relatable and stuff like that. So we make the universe in general from our own subjective point of view, and it makes the objective point of view, not no thing like, oh, we're supposed to look at, I dropped my cup. You supposed to look at a thing as objective, right? Like oh, it's just this objective and it's just this and nothing else. No, it's a subjective point of view, and over time, based upon what all of us is doing in the universe, we make the objective of why we should be doing that and what's the meaning and reasoning behind why we doing that, just in general. So everyone has their own how or particular point of reference of how they doing it, and then we make what it is. You know what I'm saying? We make the what itself. You know what I'm saying? We make the objective of why we doing it, and then we start to compartmentalize on a percentage scale of what actually matters in life. Not no thing where you end up looking at some shit that Walt Disney or Lionsgate or Warner Bros end up teaching you on TV, and then they make the what, and they make the program, and they make the system of, oh, you should only care about this in society, and if you don't got this, you ain't shit. When a lot of the time is really you getting lost into some institution, you being indoctrinated, and you not, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to take away that access of you got your own goddamn mind, and you can create your own way of how you look at stuff. And the more you try to make that relatable to the overall point of view, aka things in the universe and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying, on the highest and lowest scale, it don't matter if they are rich motherfuckers or they are homeless motherfucker. If you try to make it relatable in an overall scale and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying, it's going to show your level of intelligence and how creative you actually are, because you're able to explain it at a high level and a low level and shit. So your creativity and your productivity, you have control over that. You know what I'm saying? It's the controlling force. And it's just you understanding your power and your abilities and your willpower, just in general, right? So the more you start understanding your natural natures, is going to start leading into genetics and stuff like that. And you can apply genetics as in what's flowing in your blood, aka the Native Americans, or you being African, or you being European, or you being Asian and stuff like that. It does add into that of what's flowing in your blood, and based upon the thing that's flowing in your blood based upon on a higher percentage scale when it comes to your genetics and stuff like that, why you're going to have a certain point of view about things. That's why just in general, right, we came from the earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, we came on the turtle's back. We came from the water and stuff like that. That's really like some Native American mythology and all that type shit. But it's like, yeah, we came from those Pacific motherlands, right? And we all have our own father, sun, father, sky atmospheres and stuff like that. So when it comes to America and stuff like that, the Native Americans, that's their atmosphere. We're in their atmosphere. So anybody else is just some fucking foreigner and stuff like that. And y'all can try to make it anything else when it comes to what white man did when it comes to capitalization and colonizing and everything and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, nigga, is their atmosphere. You can't turn it no way around, no nothing else. The same way how if you go to Europe and stuff like that, okay, that's their atmosphere, and that's how they came under that pocket of the sun and stuff like that. And then when you go to Africa, okay, that's their motherland, that's their atmosphere, that's their shit. You know what I'm saying? That's their nigger tribes and all that type shit. And then when you go to Asia and stuff like that, okay, you in the Asian world, you in the Japanese, Korean, BTS world and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You in the Lisa Sword Online world and shit like that. You in the anime Astro Boy world. You in the Bleach, Naruto, My Hero Academia world. Shit, you know what I'm saying? You in the da world. You know what I'm saying? You in the Chainsaw Man, Makasa, I'm sipping over this bitch because I'm dumb as fucking, I'm 17 world. You know what I'm saying? You in their world and shit. You in the goddamn what they call that shit? The Ahagaho face, lolicon, goddamn schoolgirl, school days, high school with the dead, Asian man world, Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Vegeta Kakarot. I'm a the Dragon Shenron world. Oh God. But that's in general, right? Yeah, you start understanding your natural nature. You start to get into genetics and stuff like that. So you start to understand the origin, development, and the starting mechanism of an organism to produce your organs. So from you being an organism, right, you're a walking system of a whole bunch of different organs. So like that's like your lungs and your heart and your tongue, your eyeballs, and all that other shit and stuff like that. So you make these different organs. You know what I'm saying? Like you produce these things and you do this on a lighter scale when it comes to your mentalities and stuff like that. So if you ain't being lively and you ain't trying to expand your mind in a sense, aka it's like a process. Oh, you have to utilize you like everything being reversed just in general, but it really should be, oh, you should be utilizing your spirit so it can motivate your mind, and then your mind is going to motivate your body, and then your body is going to motivate you to act out certain things in the external world, and you gonna uh choose it. So the minute you start to act out things for God, aka all possibilities, okay, you're gonna utilize the external world, at least the way we look at it as humans and us being the physical, because everything play out in reverse. But I just explained like the spiritual perspective, top to bottom, even though it's not really top to bottom. It's really just something that's expansive and it starts to condense into something, right? So since we're the more lesser shape and form, right, of us being condensed, okay, when you start to do things of the external world for all possibilities, aka for God, right? You're gonna start moving a certain way when it comes to your body and your flesh and your fluids and your organs and your adrenaline, your blood flow. And then when you once you start to act out things based upon your body, it's gonna be based upon your mentality in your mind and stuff like that. And then once you do things to please the mind, aka expanding your mind and your awareness and your knowledge and your wisdom, and you learning from your experiences and stuff like that, you start to please your spirit, and your spirit is really no shape and form, but you was able to turn nothing into something just in general. So the more you learn how to turn nothing into something, and you could make it into a sum of different things and stuff like that, different mentalities and different organs, you can become an organism, and then you can actually play it out into the flesh and stuff like that for the most part. And yeah, it's like you always have to do things to please your body, and then from you pleasing your body, you pleasing your mind, and then when you please your mind, you can please your spirit and stuff like that. At least that's how humans look at it in reverse from us being the physical, just in general. But like I was saying before, yeah, it's always, oh, it's what your spirit is doing, aka what you're observing, and it's gonna create a shape and form out of it, a thought form, a idea, a feeling, an emotion, and it's gonna get condensed into your second body, because your first body is your metaphysics, your mind, the psyche, and then your physical organs and stuff like that. And then your physical organs and blood and adrenaline and stuff like that is gonna make you motivated to what you want to do into the external world, and then that's it. So just based upon understanding the natural natures and mechanisms of things, and everything in the environment and the ecosystems, everyone is playing out these different processes. So like plants and animals and humans and mountains and the different rivers and currents and landscapes and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's based upon uh animism. You know what I'm saying? So it's different states of beings and stuff like that. So the same way how we live in the United States of America and stuff like that, okay, we have different states. We have 50 different states. And then look at like, okay, Georgia got a particular state of being. California got a particular state of being. Kentucky got a particular state of being. New York got a particular state of being. Ohio got a particular state of being and stuff like that. And then all these different states of beings make the United States. And Northern America and stuff like that, and it ended up making a country. And then based upon the country that we in and stuff like that, and this was just Native American land at one point, right, based upon the indigenous Indian natures and stuff like that, it made America and stuff like that. So understand the atmosphere of that first, and then you're able to do it in your own particular way and stuff like that. You start to act out things more naturally, and you don't get caught up into certain programs and certain illusions and delusions based upon Walt Disney and based upon Lionsgate of their particular way of what it means to be a superstar or a walking planet or some shit like that, or what's actually important to the world and corporate jobs and all that type of shit. I'm not trying to say like that's bad or anything like that, but just in general, right? Allow motherfuckers be indoctrinated and be lost into the colonized mind state of how to look at things, and they don't know nothing else type shit. So it's good to understand the overall point of view, so you can always find your particular lane or your particular pocket, while also still being relatable to the overall world and society of where we at right now and stuff like that. So just in general, right, you start to understand the biological functions or the urges to satisfy your desires based upon you trying to fulfill certain things on all levels. So you have to do things that please your spirit, which is gonna please your mind, which is gonna please your body, which is gonna make you do some really inspiring things in the external realm and stuff like that. So you can never fulfill things based upon your internal natures from the outside. You always doing something from the inside out, not from the outside in. The more you try to do things from the outside in, the more you're gonna depend on low hanging fruit, the more you're gonna have validation issues, and then the more you have to rely on a weak mental crutch, and it's not gonna give you no type of spiritual strength, and it's not gonna give you no type of mental resilience to go the distance with something based upon your creativity and what you can do based upon you having power control over it. You always have to give your power and control to something outside yourself. You know what I'm saying? You never did something that fulfilled you. You always have to utilize that for something outside yourself, all the way down to strangers and appealing to motherfuckers who probably don't even give a fuck about you, but they just care about the quality that you got from you being you and stuff like that. So you end up not understanding your own state of being. You get lost into other people's creations and other people's state of beings and atmospheres and stuff. So that's when you start to understand your own morality. So what's good and bad for you based upon your preferences and your biases and stuff like that, and just making that balance in more of an equilibrium and stuff like that. So you have to do things that are more true to you. But the only way to understand what's true to you and understanding your own esoteric testimony, your own truth and stuff like that, you have to understand the lies, the deceptions, the things that you are not really into, or what you would not do and stuff like that, what you don't resonate with and stuff like that. And then if you can't figure that out, okay, eventually you're gonna go through life of you figuring out you are this and you're not that. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are things that you like, and these are the things you don't like. These are the things where you feel like you done experienced enough to where you tired of it, and these are the things that you never get tired of for some reason. You always trying to find some type of new inspiration and motivation to keep on doing it and keep that going and stuff like that. So you want to keep that everlasting, and you want to have that belief or have that thing extend and make these things a part of you because you really resonate with it and stuff like that. The shit cut out. You really resonate with it and stuff like that. So once you start to govern your own behavior, that's like you governing mentalities and stuff like that. So that's really what the government is. The government is just a governing mentality and stuff like that. So you able to do that for yourself and stuff like that, because all the way down to the government we in America and stuff like that, someone just made up that mentality, and that's how they ruled over it. Even though a lot of it is capitalism and colonization, they did it by force. But y'all get what I'm trying to say. When you start to understand your own government, aka you start to govern your own mentalities, your thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, understanding your divine masculine, your divine feminine and stuff like that, your motherly, caring, nurturing type of energies, while also understanding your own expression, your own ego, but not get lost into a specific shape and form of how it's supposed to look like, aka you being like some narc, egomaniac and stuff like that. You start to be more balanced in that sense. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? You start understanding things on a higher scale, aka things that are close to you. So like I was saying before, things are that are more in heat. You know what I'm saying? Things that make you more enticed and enthusiastic and inspired, and the things you know what I'm saying, that make you start to sweat and motivated and stuff like that, and things that are cold and dead and distance, or low temperament or low vibrational in a sense, right? And you're able to go the distance with that, and you're able to go through the whole process in itself. So you was able to make an expression, make an awareness, and then you was able to receive it and condense it and put it in a container, aka you making it a feminine, and then you start to understand your masculine and feminine. The masculine would be like you expressing and externalizing or giving something, or externalizing something, and then you receiving something is like the feminine energy or the attraction type of energy. You trying to make it look in a certain way based upon the emotions and feelings, and you try to put it into a container. You try to condense it into a shape and form and stuff like that. So you start to understand your natural natures and things that are more organic and resonate with you of what's true to you, and you don't get lost into the concealment. You don't get lost into the shade. You don't get lost into the containment. You don't get lost into things that are synthetic. You don't get lost into the things that are after the fact. And you start to understand the overall process. Like I was saying before, spirit, mind, body, external world, spring, summer, fall, winter, birth, life, death, evaporation, conclusion. And then once you start to understand that process and stuff like that, that's how that reincarnation process start again, aka you end up being born again because you didn't get lost into a certain shape and form and stuff like that. You didn't get lost into the external world, right? You didn't get lost into that winter time. You didn't get lost into the fall time when things fall and things of that nature. You didn't get lost into a certain desire in a sense. You didn't get lost into the flesh, the physical world. you didn't get lost into a mentality, which is just your first body. Your second body is the physical. Your first body is your mentality. You didn't get lost into a certain thought, that feeling, or emotion. You was able to come back again because you just going based upon your experiences and what you learn from your experiences. Basically, what your spirit is doing, aka what your soul is doing, your individual space. So you was way more worried about your essence and your natural energies and your abilities and capabilities at the highest scale. And yeah, you basically just learn from your experiences, and you was able to let those things go, the physical and the mentality.